Hey, this is Scott, and get this microphone out of the way. Um, and you're listening to the Martin Tales. This should be series four, story four or so in the series. I don't know how many of these are going to be. I don't know how many countries I'm going to recollect, or when I'm just going to get bored and stop recording these stories, but I'll record them for now. And thank you for listening. Um, this one is in again, my first year in Africa, in fact, nearly into my first week in the country. My parents were going there to serve as Christian service personnel, and I was 11. My sister was 6, and we are going to travel from Arusha, Tanzania, where we arrived at Kilimanjaro International Airport, to um, across the country to Musoma. To get there, you must travel through the Serengeti National Park and travel by Ngorongoro Crater, National Historical Site, as well as a site of the Leakeys, um, missing link discoveries. It was truly the Olduvai Gorge. It was really an extraordinary um, cultural and historical place. We were jet lagged and getting fairly limited exposure. I had already passed out from my first meal with a fish. We'd already had a major breakdown on the side of the road. Um, and here we are traveling in Land Rover four-wheel drives across the savannah. Um, so today I just want to share a little bit of that wonderful safari across East Africa. As we approached the Serengeti National Park, and man, we'd already had some amazing experience in it and seen some unbelievable animals. It was a storybook. This is day one of our travels. We'd already been through Ngorongoro Crater, which is amazing. Um, and this is just the road to get there. Like, we're not taking a trip. We're just trying to get to language school. Classes start, or in fact, had started on Friday. This, I think, is the weekend. And we're hoping to get there by Monday um, for the second week of classes in language school. And we drive into the park, we come over this hill and now can see into Serengeti National Park. And it appears that the ground there had been peppered. Um, all the savanna that we had seen up to this time was that tan grass look, right? It all kind of looked the same. It's very smooth, soft looking. Um, as we came over this hill into the park, that soft look, um, again, appeared to be peppered. Um, it's hard to describe it any other way. There were black dots all over this otherwise smooth surface. And I mean all over, like all over, just completely dotted. It looked gray and dark. Um, and as we approached, you could see that the dots were moving, and the dots, of course, got bigger and bigger until we realized that what we were looking at, or until I realized that what I was looking at was zebra and wildebeest by the millions. Turns out that we arrived there in January at the peak of the wildebeest migration, where they migrated across this part of East Africa from Masai Mara in Kenya down to the southern point of the Serengeti, and then they would migrate back up as they followed the water and the rain and the new grass. And here was the migration, hundreds and hundreds of thousands. It was loud as we pulled in through the park, as we drove among these wildebeest. They were all baying. I can't describe exactly. It was kind of kind of sound of the baying of the wildebeest. Imagine that times 1 million, and you get a little sense of the chorus around us. And they would run, and the dust would be kicked up, and there were um, large ones and small ones, and it was a whole family affair, and it was really an amazing thing. And it took us a couple of hours to drive through um, the heart of the migration. Now, all of the Serengeti had lots and lots of wildebeest, um, but this particular was the heavy portion of it, and we drove for a while to get through it, making our way north in the park till we came to the center where there is the Serengeti Lodge. It's a large tourist lodge built among the rocks. This is not a peak tourist time, and so I believe there was just one other party at the lodge when we stopped there. At least I only remember another guy in the restaurant, um, and so we went in and unpacked our bags for the night. We would spend one night there and then drive on to Musoma the next day. Um, but this was a place we're stopping. It wasn't quite dark yet. In fact, it was early evening, and the opportunity came for us to go on a bit of a safari drive. And I was excited to get to do that, and went out. I don't remember who all was in the car. I know I was, and I know that Bob, our guide, was there, and my dad, and I knew that Musa was there. Musa, which is the Swahili word name, Moses. Musa is the driver, and he's the kind of head mechanic and maintenance person at the Bible school, and he would be driving one of the vehicles, while my dad and Bob would alternate in driving the other vehicle across the area there, across the Serengeti to language camp, and then Musa and Bob would drive back to Ubulu. So here we are. Musa's going to drive us out, and he talked to some of the games wardens and some of the other drivers and found out where some animals were. And so we went out and saw some more animals. I can't even begin to tell you the hundreds of different species of animals that we saw that day, before and during this safari drive. But as we approached this particular tree, Musa, through Bob, was telling us about the baboons that we needed to come see here. Now, we had seen baboons a lot. Baboons were pretty frequent, particularly up on Ngorongoro. We saw a ton of baboons. I don't find them appealing. They're kind of like scary dogs crossed with scary monkeys. They're just a scary, big fanged, weird butt looking thing. And so going to see baboons was fine, but I wasn't super excited about it. But this was a large group, and I hadn't seen this larger group, and they seemed to all be gathered in this tree. And then I mentioned they're scary. And some of the larger baboons are, 4 feet tall and really muscular and very intimidating and have big, scary fangs. So we're watching them, and they're kind of hanging in the tree, and Musa gets out and starts throwing. He said, "We're not seeing what we should be seeing." So he gets out and starts throwing dirt clods at the tree, which causes the baboons to come out of the tree. And then we see why the baboons were in the tree. There's a leopard. And when the baboons vacated the tree, the leopard tried to leave. And in an instant, those baboons swarmed that tree back up the limbs, screaming and screeching, and that leopard scampered all the way to the top. Now I know what we're watching. There's a leopard in the tree, and it's been treed by a troop of baboons. And we watched for a long time. And from time to time, so we'd get out and throw dirt clods and duplicate that scene where with the baboons coming out of the tree, and then the leopard would come down, and we'd get a good look at it, and then they'd come back. And the story goes like this, that probably what had happened is that this leopard had killed a young baboon for food, and the baboons were not favorable of this particular action and had found the guilty party, sentenced him, found him guilty, and were going to sentence him to his punishment and had treat him. And they would keep him in the tree until the leopard weakened, and they were able to get him. So the sheer number of baboons forced the leopard into the tree. And I guess what would happen, supposedly, is that their intention was to gouge the eyes out of this offending leopard and leave him to starve as punishment for having killed one of their young. So I don't know if these stories get out among the leopards, but it seems like a terribly intimidating and extreme violent punishment. But it did make for a really exciting afternoon for an 11-year-old on his first week in Africa. And I hope you found it entertaining. Thanks. We'll try to do some more.